So morning all. Hope you're all well and thanks for joining us. My name's Shane Young from the Barnsley and Rotherham Chamber. As a chamber, we're supporting Mental Health Awareness Week this week, and we're running a range of webinars throughout the week. And today's webinar is going to be focusing on 5 essential steps that business owners must consider to safeguard the health and well-being of their employees working from home. We've got Mike Lawrence presenting this morning. Morning, Mike.
Morning, Shane. Morning, Shane. Morning, everybody.
Mike's an award-winning consultant that provides top-class services in the health and well-being field. And I know Mike's going to go into a lot more detail about what his business does. So before I pass on to Mike, I want to let you know that this webinar is being recorded and we'll be sending it out to our network and on our website and through social media afterwards. I'm now going to mute all participants other than Mike, and we want this to be as interactive as it can be. So if you have any questions, you can pop them in the conversation chat box or raise your digital hand and we'll pick them up as we go. I'm now going to pass them over to Mike. Oh, have we got some fuzzers?
Morning, everybody. I know that you're all on mute at the moment in time. So just to get a quick idea of who we've got in the room, I know some of you already, but if you just want to just put quickly in the chat box or the chat link, just who you are and what you do. And then whilst you're doing that, I'm just going to flip over onto my sort of like presentation. The presentation is going to be about 40-45 minutes. I'm going to try and make it very engaging and interactive. Quite a few presentations. Sometimes it's not always easy whilst you're presenting and reading what's going on in the chat room pop-ups as well. And so, Shane, if it's okay for you, just to have a look out if there's specific questions that do come up, then I'll try and answer them as we go along. Also, I made a big mistake, I think it might have been last week, and you know, when I go to share the screen, I'm busy running through all my my presentation, and I didn't realise that my slides had paused, and I'd kind of got. And it was, I think there was a slide that everyone else was seeing was different from mine. So if it does look out of sync, if somebody can just wave and tell me, that will be great as well. Okay. So just to make sure that you're all hearing me clear, can you just give me a quick wave? Brilliant, excellent. Right then. So let's go to it. Share screen. Can we all see that? Okay, see that's all right. Excellent, good. Right. So this is what I'm going to do is just going to take you through 5 steps of well-being. It's not just necessarily for yourself. It's not necessarily just for members of staff. It's also for yourself as well. And so some of the things which I'm going to take you through for employees also helps people, you know, generally as well. Okay. Rundown on what I'm going to cover. Obviously, this is part of the mental health awareness, and there's been a number of presentations this week. I sat in on one on Monday, which is extremely good, and that was Richard Holmes, the director of wellbeing for Westfield Health. And he went through a number of different things, and it just so happened that some of the things that he talked about, I've actually got them, I'd already pre-written them in some of these slides here as well. So, but just I'm going to talk about our energy in terms of where our focus and what we focus on, you know, and how we can manage that in terms of information flow. Also, lots of challenges that are facing managers, but the impact, you know, the social impact. And there's a lot going on at the moment in time, and so I'm just going to take you through how that relates to well-being. Take some, you know, some takeaways today, some 5 steps that you can implement today or share with people within your network, and also some action steps that's going to help your employees, and hopefully at the end a bit of a Q&A. Is that okay with everybody? thumbs up, thumbs up. There's also something at the bottom. Is it the emotions, where a little thumb, or you can shake your hands as well, or not? Yeah, entirely up to you. Okay. What I want to do though is to start with this new way of working. Some of you might know that I've got a clinic in Sheffield, and I've had that for a number of years, and I normally see lots of clients there on a weekly basis. And and I was just before the lockdown, no, actually in the lockdown, I had one of those clients get in touch with me, and she was saying to me that she's feeling more stressed, depressed, that she can't see her family and friends, and her daughter wasn't able to see her boyfriend, and son also wants to bring his girlfriend to the house. Obviously that's not allowed in the lockdown. And also missing those hugs. Who else is missing hugs at the moment in time if you're not getting them internally? Okay. And also the daughter wasn't getting up until late afternoon. Anyone who's got daughters know what it's like. Sometimes the kids not getting up, later on during the day. And so this just started off as just a quick text message. Mike, can you help me? Emergency, emergency. Getting all stressed out and everything. And later on in the afternoon, I was managed to fit this client in. And within an hour, we'd been able just to calm her down by giving her a few little steps to bring down those stress levels, and some coping strategies which were able to work and implement straight away. Okay. So this is a little bit about myself in regards to how I got to, where I am. Well, I want to hear a little bit of my story of how I got here. Okay, good. I used to play a lot of football, and unfortunately, I damaged 2 of my Achilles tendons 1 year after the other. And at the time, I was living in London, and one of my employees, because I worked with my ex-wife in Harley Street, we had a fabulous world-class clinic there. But one of our employees, her husband, no, partner actually, he was having trials with Tottenham Football Club, and she said to me, he's just sustained a serious injury. He's just sustained a serious injury in his knee, and it's career threatening, and he's having it fixed at the moment in time by somebody down in Bournemouth. So I made this 240-mile round trip down to Bournemouth just to see who this wonder guy was. And when you go down there, on his car on the drive, have got on his number plate, and he at the time was treating or working with a lot of Premier League and England internationals such as David Beckham and Wayne Rooney. And he worked with myself, and I enjoyed it so much that I ended up learning a lot of holistic therapies, which then started me on my career. Moved to the north, stayed within the same sort of industry that I was in beforehand, and then set up my clinic based upon my injuries and based upon my journey, because in that period of time as well went through a divorce, and that divorce was quite traumatic and expensive, but overall what I'm able to do now is to give my clients a lot of the support and encouragement which I had in my training, sort of like back then. Because as we move forward to now, we hear these terms of social distancing and people keeping a distance and people staying at home and social isolation. And for people who are suffering with mental health type of conditions, this can be very challenging, because what they actually want at the moment in time is those hugs. They want that closeness. We are social creatures overall as human beings, and we would like to be around people. But when we're hearing this information on a day-to-day basis, it can be difficult for many of us. What was it? Last week, because I do a lot of work within the various communities in Sheffield. I'm a trustee for a number of organisations, and I just got a call from such one of these organisations, the Black minority ethnic communities, and sadly there was a young boy who unfortunately took his life. He had some underlying conditions, and the sad thing is, obviously, he took his life, and nobody around him was aware what he was going through. Neither did his friends. And his friends, at the moment in time, they're reaching out to the parents, they're reaching out to people, not, uncertain or unsure as to why he did this, and not sure how to deal with this. And they're going back to their parents and asking for help. And what they're finding is that their parents aren't able to potentially help them, because sometimes if we are affected by our upbringing and our surroundings and our peers, then sometimes it's difficult for us to give us that help. So as part of that community, we've reached out to set up a working group to help the youngsters, to deal with that sort of information. Who remembers, was it the other Sunday when Boris Johnson came onto the steps of, no, he wasn't on the steps actually. He was at home in 10 Downing Street, and he told everybody, and the message was changed, because we have all got used to stay at home, protect the NHS and save lives, which we still are all doing. But the Sunday, when that mantra changed to sort of like starting to go out now, a lot of people, felt there was lots of confusion, and it's a confusing message. But the challenge that we all have is that over a period of time, our subconscious mind and our mind has got familiar with these messages. And so when we hear something different, it takes us time, and sometimes we need social proof to be able to just flip from one thing to one state to another. Because our subconscious mind has been hearing this for a period of time: stay at home, stay at home, stay at home. So all of a sudden somebody comes along and said, actually, you can go out. I said, really? Why? You've been telling me to stay at home. Now I can go out. And then there's lots of confusion in your mind. And so even the media was like that as well. And they were putting out messages, and you might have seen some interviews being done. And even some people in the media, they were confused as well. But over a period of time, we've kind of got used to it. And the more the message changes, the more we will actually get used to it. But overall, it's down to, our minds. And who's familiar with how the mind works and the lymphatic system? Anybody? Okay, thumbs up, Amanda. Great, good. And it's in control our emotions and our, and our reasons, our rationale, our beliefs. And our beliefs are part of this lymphatic system, especially in the amygdala. Does anybody know, actually, and Shane, I can't see my chat at the moment, Tom, so if you can just watch out for this for me, please, if that's okay. There's two words that impact or affect our emotional brain. If I was to say these two words as part of my presentation, this will give you a 20-minute boost. 20-minute, that alert gives a boost of, say, 20 minutes of our concentration. Do you want to just pop in the chat box what you think those two words are? Shane, just want to just shout out to me what people have been writing, please.
I will do. No one's. Oh, so Ches has wrote help for one of the words.
Yeah. Anything from anybody else? Any guesses?
Not just yet. I think people are having a think and starting to type.
Okay. All right then.
They probably need a bit of an energy boost, to be honest.
Come on, everyone, just jump up and stand around and start moving around.
So Amanda's put pain and pleasure.
Ah, interesting. Interesting. Do you know, actually, whilst you're thinking, and I'll go on to the next slide, I'm aware that I've got a mentor. I've got a couple of mentors at the moment in time. Anybody else work with mentors or coaches at all? And one of them is a voice coach and talks about, in order to access the frontal lobe of the brain, if you're standing more or less in the center rather than forward or back, the information sort of like comes to you. So that's why when I'm standing, I'm actually in one of my rooms here, and rather than sitting down, I tend to stand up in the centre where I'm able to get a lot of the information on the front lobe, and in the centre rather than being back or forward. The actual two words, don't know if anyone's put them in there, was sex and death.
I can confirm, Mike, that no one put those two in.
Okay, thank you. Not even yourself, Shane.
I had it in my brain, but that's about it.
Were you thinking from the amygdala, though?
Yep, Amanda's put she was pretty close. With
she was. Yeah. Thank you. And also, because our brain, our mind, our world, we are subjected to so much information overload. In actual fact, studies show that the amount of data that we're actually getting is the equivalent to a certain amount of newspapers. Again, in the chat box, please write down what you think that is, the amount of newspapers in terms of data that we're subjected every single day. Just have a guess. And again, I'll just roll through. And out to us whilst I'm going through, it's okay. Offices, anybody back to work yet? Anybody back into their offices? No. People are now starting to go back to work. But also there's a bit of confusion at my clinic where I've got my offices in Redlands Business Centre in Broom Hill. Some people are starting to go back to work. The organisation are looking to do a risk assessment. And that's what the government advises now at the moment in time. But first and foremost, if you're not able to work from home, you have to go into work to deliver your services. Then in most organisations, you're having to do a risk assessment. And I was sitting down with a colleague of mine the other day who's a health and safety expert, and he was just giving me a few sorts of tips and guidelines around to what the health and safety guidelines are saying now at the moment in time. But can you imagine that with your staff, people who are, who manage staff or consultants, going back into work environments where, there's beforehand, especially where I've worked before, how you've got call centres, lots of people around, and you can choose where you want to sit, and you can, you sit, and sometimes organisations just squeeze loads of people together and get as many people into that room as possible. And now we're going to be, in some cases, and again, health and safety dictates that, where it's reasonably practicable at times. And so, some organisations, many organisations are going to have, these guards, 2 meters, 2 meters apart, people sitting 2 meters apart, and also staggering how people will come and when people actually, to come into work. And then in certain instances, they might even decide that people might stay working at home. And this is a message, this is a question that I posed to Richard Holmes on Monday in regards to the work in which he does for Westfield Health and others in regards to the advice and support that they give to organisations in regards to people going back to work, because this massively will impact on the well-being of people. Okay, where's that gone? Where's that slide? Because this is what's been happening, over the last couple of months. Up and down the country, the number of people that were actually working remotely was quite small. I forget off the top of my head what the figure was, but now it's gone up quite significantly. So this is going to pose a lot of challenges for managers in regards to how they manage the well-being of their individuals. Because already prior to the lockdown, there was already a lot of challenges for managers, but now they've increased. They've increased because prior to the lockdown, a lot of the stats analysis was around managers being blamed for the decline of the health of their people. Some people also identified that they were also responsible for the stress levels and the decreasing stress levels we can see from here. And also organisations were said to be at fault for not providing the training for managers. Now, anybody here who's worked in organisations in a management capacity, have many been sent on external training courses? Just hands in the air or thumbs up. Okay. I was fortunate that in the time that I was in management for a number of years, I went on quite a few training courses in my earlier career. But at the latter end of my career, you tended to find that those organisations that those training got less and less. Organisations were unwilling to pay for managers on their training. But there's a direct link between that lack of training and the mental health of those individuals. Okay. Stress levels, people being anxious, those sort of things have been going on. So as employees have been working from home, and not just employees, but individuals as well, becoming more anxious in terms of this lockdown and working more hours. Who finds themselves at the moment in time working more hours, working from home? You know, every person that I've spoke to, every presentation that I've done so far, it's been the same. People working longer hours. We might be thinking to ourselves, okay, is that because we haven't got the travel, so we can squeeze a bit more? But we're finding ourselves just working longer hours. Who's familiar with Maslow's hierarchy of needs? Ches must be, from that massive bookshelf Amanda there as well. Ches, you've probably got the book, have you? No, not on there yet. No, but it's a great read. And when I was at university, and those who have read it as well, familiar with it. And likewise, when we have the Q&A as well, if anyone wants to share any of this stuff, what they've learned and what they've taken from the books they've read or things as well. Or I'd be also curious to hear how other people are managing in terms of the mental health and at the end as well. So I'd be happy to hear that. But we've gone through the different stages. At the moment in time, a lot of people have been in that safety psychological mode. And the key thing that I wanted to raise here was more around what people want and how it fits into Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Around we're wanting that, the wellness, the safety against accidents and injuries. But what you found at the early stages of the lockdown period, that it was just that food on the table, and that safety. But the other massive thing was the finances as well. But fortunately, the government have put in place various grants, and the banks have hopefully given opportunity for people to have payment holidays up to 3 months. And organisations like Chamber of Commerce and others have been really good to support, the community and members by giving, lots of information where we can get the financial support. It's great that as part of the Mental Health Awareness Week, people like myself, and Ches is speaking later this week, and others have been able to provide that knowledge and that comfort and support and guidance, from our wisdom to help people through these stages. Okay. Now I just want to show you a quick little video, if that's okay, in terms of moving on to leadership and trust, some of the key things. Just bear with me a second.
Mike, I think the sharing screen's just dropped. If you want to just click back onto that.
Yeah. I've just noticed. Cool. Are we back on again?
We are indeed.
Beautiful. We're good to go.
Amy Wilkinson, I'm a White House Fellow. My question is how you would define the key characteristics of effective leadership that allow you to go and be an advocate for good.
Trust. The longer I have been in public service and the more people have asked me about leadership over the years, leadership ultimately comes down to creating conditions of trust within an organization. Good leaders are people who are trusted by followers. Leaders take organizations past the level that the science of management says is possible. One of my sergeants back in the infantry school at Fort Benning almost 50 years ago, which is where I learned everything I ever got to learn about leadership, was at the infantry school. And he said to me one day, he said, "Lieutenant, you'll know you're a good leader when people follow you, if only out of curiosity." I've never had a better definition, because what he was saying, and I've seen it experienced in my life so many times. What he was saying is they trust you, and you have built up that trust. How did you do it? Clear mission and statement, selfless service. People look to you and they trust you because you're serving selflessly as the leader, not self-serving, selflessly, and that you prepare the followers, you train them. You give them what they need to get the job done. Don't give them a job if you're not going to give them the resources, and that you're prepared to take the risks with them. And so they would teach us at the infantry school, no matter how cold it is, Lieutenant, you must never look cold. No matter hungry you all, no matter how terrified you are, Lieutenant, you must never look terrified. Because if you are scared, terrified, hungry, and cold, they will be scared, terrified, hungry, and cold. I've gotten away with that many, many times in the course of my career by being scared to death, cold, and wanting to go to sleep. But no, let's go. Let's keep going. Let's go around this corner, if only out of curiosity. And they'll follow you into the darkest night, down the deepest valley, up the highest hill, if they trust you. So the essence of leadership is about doing all that the science of management says you can with resources, but then taking that extra step and giving it that comes from getting people to trust you so that they will follow you, if only out of curiosity. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody seen that before? Thumbs up if you like that. Excellent.
If you're serious about your business,
Oops.
you need to build systems.
Didn't need that. Let me just get back onto my slides again. Spare me a second. Right, back into the slides. Can you all see my slides? Just give me a thumbs up. Awesome. Good. I like that video. I only come across it, probably a few days ago, and I was putting these slides together. As a manager for many years prior to setting up my business, read lots of books, lots of motivational books, lots of courses. And my mantra used to be, management was all about getting things done through others. But for me, it was also, again, about gaining that trust. And if they trust you, if they believe you, they will go that extra mile and get things done. And now more than ever, you do need that trust, and to be there, because you can see here on the screen, hopefully there's some of these stats taken from the Office of National Statistics for those people like the stats amongst us, and the impact to be on our well-being. And this data you got on the graph on the right-hand side. This is a snapshot of some data that was taken. The blue of April, which is last month, and the yellow is the difference, 9th of April to 20th of April. And these are just some of the behaviours, as identified some of the behaviours that people were displaying in this survey. And you can see from here the homeschool, homeschool to the strain on homeschool, worry about the future. People talk about the new norm, pivoting. Key workers are working long hours to keep those deliveries, and people in the caring profession. We already talked about it's not just the key workers working long hours, but we find ourselves also doing so as well, working long beyond our sort of permitted hours. Back then there's a high percentage of people that haven't left their home, but then when we look back at the slide which I showed earlier, that they've been told not to leave home. So they're only following those sorts of guidelines that have been told, And one of the other fascinating things that I that was the one at the bottom in terms of key work. Key workers weren't sending their kids to school because they were worried about, well, there was two things: the well-being of the school, of their child at school, and also getting childcare. And I've noticed this, and I've spoken to some of my clients who can concur with both those outcomes. Both those outcomes. And so I actually spoke to my colleague who's a health and safety representative, just to give us some information regards to how things potentially will be. But I don't know if anyone's read the papers today on the news. They've been talking, there's different schools of thought, pardon for the pun, in regards to whether school, kids should be going back to school yet, or at a later stage. Okay, what's happened here? Okay, so looking at the managers, we talked about managers. Are they leading through the crisis? Are we leading through the crisis? And it's just not managers. It's because I put ourselves in that category as well. As adults, for our children, or people that in charge of organisations. Are you leading through the crisis, taking ownership, being responsible, being aware of what's happening in the future? Okay, or just managing through the response. I'll just crack on. I'll just see what happens. And we see it, when we speak to some colleagues and friends through social media. You've got some that were extremely positive, taking this opportunity to do things that they haven't done beforehand. And maybe others will be just thinking, I'm missing out on going to the pub, I'm missing out on going to the Pilates, I'm missing out on all these different things. But sometimes you just got to just take it for what it is and embrace this time and do it to the best of our ability. So I just come onto the final stretch, is the 5 essential steps to take. These things I'm just going to share with you and I. Okay, all still with me? Thumbs up. Right, excellent, great. Okay. You should have been around here yesterday. I said I was on a mentoring course because I've got some mentors. Normally I'd be in London for 2 days and a live event, and they've shifted the whole event online, and so there's about 70 people. There's about 70 people from all over the world being mentored by somebody, by a couple of people, from London, and shouting and dancing, all these different things, which is, to get sort of, to get energy into the body from just, there's one thing, just starting with your hands. You might actually want to try this, actually. Everyone just stand up for a moment if you're able to stand up. Shane did say it was going to be interactive, so blame Shane. So just start off with your right hand, and just on the wrist, just wiggle it around a little bit, just get some energy into it, okay? And then from the elbow, then get the elbow moving, that's it. And then take it into the arm, and then throw the arm away. Okay, and then just shake it out a little bit. And so to make sure the left hand doesn't get, the left side of the body doesn't fall off, start off with the left hand at the wrist, just shake that around. That's good. Let's shake it all around, left and right, rotate, and then from the elbow, get that moving, and then move the arm around, okay? And then just throw it away, just throw it away. Just throw it away. Okay, that's good. And then just wiggle out both your arms and your shoulders. and then just sit back down again, or you can carry on standing up. There's another one which is just as exciting. It's known as a bunny hop. And at the end, we might do this, to see what we're like for time. And when you see this one, you might want to do it yourself, but it's brilliant at getting energy, because I might have talked beforehand about how to working with a voice coach and some other people in terms of something that you can do, which gets that oxygen in the right part of your mind and gets your focus in that right sort of area immediately, and it's brilliant. And when you do it, you jump around, you do it, and then you come back again, your voice goes up. So because a lot of times we're only using a part of our voice range. Quite interesting. So, daily routine. You could build that into your daily routine, first thing in the morning. Okay. Who's got a routine? Who's got a daily routine? Anybody? Okay. Anybody's daily routine changed in the lockdown? Have thumbs up or hands up again. Anyone has changed? Brilliant. Okay. And you might want to just drop down, and we'll go through them later on. You might just want to jot down in the chat box how that has changed, what it was before and what it is now. Yeah, mine's definitely changed, because where I am in Chesterfield, I've got a gym not too far away, and I was struggling to go there several times a week until I find myself. And so if I didn't go, I'd give, say, £10 every time I didn't go for charity, and I wanted to go twice a week. And that was one of my New Year's it wasn't a resolution, but it was just a goal that I set myself for this year. So, but now, boy, I'm walking every day. I'm walking every day. I've got one of these wobble boards in my living room. I've got all sorts of things going on, eating healthy. But overall, it's an important message for our well-being, for yourselves, family, and friends, employees going back to work, is to have that routine, because again, we're creatures of comfort and we're creatures of routine. And we had a work routine when we were in work. Some people said, somebody actually said to me the other day, what are you saying to people who are going back to work, who are actually been working from home? Because, but we're being moved out of a routine. And it's a bit like when you go away on holiday. Imagine when you go away on holiday for about a week or two, you change routine, you come back into work, and we have to slot back into another work routine. So to make sure that there's a smooth transition, anybody that does go to a physical place of work is having that routine, and having a routine which is similar to what you did beforehand, so that there isn't that big sort of shift in your minds when you do go back into the physical workplace. Communicate is massive, it's powerful. Again, the Chamber of Commerce, they've been absolutely brilliant, as have lots of organisations, networking groups and lots of groups that support the business community has been phenomenal. And I think that all the chambers, the City Region event was brilliant. Anybody on the City Region event of the day? I know you were, Shane. That was, really good. And there's been some and I think that organisations like the Chamber and others have really stepped up and supported individuals. But it's also important for organisations to support their employees as well. And it's communicating not just by having a load of people, as we have, normally you might have 10, 15 people in a group. There could be less. Usually Zoom, some people are using Microsoft Teams or Google. The other one is Google. There's different ones. And it's all well and good saying, hello, how are you? Then moving to the next person. Hello, Rachel, how are you doing? Alex, how are you? Amanda, is everything okay? The Stress Master, hope you are okay. Shane, are you looking good? You're looking fine, all casual and everything. It's that, not just, how are you? It's a case of you want to find out what you can do for them. Obviously, it helps if you already had a good rapport and you showed empathy with your team. Because if you're doing that already, it makes that transition into what's happening at work a lot better. But communication is both ways. And also part of that communication is not just finding out about them, but also about their family. Is there anything that they're struggling with? Is there anything that you can help them with? And this is going to be just as important as people transition from working from home, living at home, to going back into the workplace. Because there's also some people that may have been furloughed. And I'm not sure on the legality, and hopefully somebody will be able to clarify that for me in terms of those people are furloughed in regards to communication with those people. But being furloughed for a period of time and all of a sudden just getting that email, oh, by the way, we start work on the 1st of June or whatever time it is, there needs to be maybe a telephone conversation. Find out how that person communicates, the best mode of communication, because sometimes just an email isn't going to cut it. You know, offer training and support, lots of training and support. You know, there's still people working from home still, and so we continue to offer that training and support. I've shared with you earlier at the lack of training or the demise of the training over the decades. But yeah, if you look at the figures, I think it's the Open University and lots of organisations that offer online training. That's gone to the roof. So any leaders out there, people on the call, people in the webinar now, or somebody might be watching this at a later stage, if you're not offering that training now, it might be something that you might want to consider. This could be, just sometimes it can be done over the Zoom, finding out, doing a training audit. What do people need? What support do they want? What support do they want when they come back into the workplace? All these things, it's all about, being prepared, being that leader, just being that leader, as Colin Powell mentioned. I call this one here supported one-to-ones. And for me, one of the reasons why I had a phenomenally successful managerial career is because I was very caring and very supportive of my team. I worked for many years in the cosmetic surgery. Well, not cosmetic surgery. I worked for many years in the cosmetic beauty industry. So high percentage of my staff, were female, and so therefore, in that industry, there's a lot of emotions. Not to say that that's not the case with the men, but sometimes people will come into work, or members of staff will come into work, and they look down. They just don't look there. And I might have sent them an email to say I need this doing by a certain time, a particular task, and you just might look over and look as though that there's something not right. And so rather than putting my head down and say, right, and that's it, carrying on with my task, it might be a report that I need to write for a meeting with my bosses, I would take the time out to, just to say, is everything okay? Are you okay? And a lot of the times I'd be out up the road for a coffee just to sit down and have a chat. And sometimes just by sitting down and having that chat meant the world to them. And that support would then go around the rest of the team, and the others would see that. And so if they had challenges or problems, they would say, go and see Mike, have a word with Mike. And even now, some of the places that I used to work at, they still ring me up for advice, and they call me boss, even to this day. So again, we can do, so people who are at home have those supportive one-to-ones. Yes, go through, not necessarily going through your standard one-to-ones, but it's having a conversation. Get to find out about them, what they do, what's their background, how things are. Because there's an opportunity to find out more about them than you may have been able to do before, and them about you as well. Okay. We all resonate with that? Thumbs up? Coolio. And then be present and show up. We, as managers, as leaders, more than ever now, we need to be visible. We need to be that leader. We may not necessarily have all the answers, to the questions, but by being collaborative, by being supportive, by being visible, by sometimes showing our vulnerabilities, and just be human. Because you know, what is it, Stephen Covey, 7 Habits of Successful People. I'm sure you've got that on your bookshelf, Chaz. Yes, you've got it, Amanda. You've got them all. You've got more than Chaz. Oh yeah, I can see them now. Shane, where's yours? You got comic books. No. And it's that beginning with the end in mind. We don't necessarily know the ending, because there is a lot of uncertainty out there. But at least if we just show up and be present and be there and be accountable. One of the reasons, you know, I was in management for over 20, 30 years or so. And this here, a lot of people were the opposite. But then again, sometimes the environment was, you know, was toxic. And it was more about management by committing. And so you weren't allowed to sometimes show up or have an opinion. You had to go with a sort of committee. But now we're looking for leaders. People are looking for leaders, because we need that. You know, people want to know or to get that guidance, support whilst they're out there. I've made a note here at the bottom, a quote: "Your supervisor is more important to you, to your health, than your family doctor," by Bob Chapman. This was taken out of a book called Dying for a Paycheck, which is absolutely amazing. I love the book. I bought this book probably about a week or two before I went out to Germany a few years ago to do a talk on stress, depression, and anxiety. And that quote there kind of like summed it up for me, because we spend more time with our managers. Spend more time with our managers spend more time at work. And so it's important that we, as managers, as leaders, we look after people's well-being. The actual name of the book, I don't know if I've mentioned this, was a gentleman called Jeremy Pfeiffer. Jeremy Pfeiffer, Dying for a Paycheck. Okay, it's a great, great read. Mental health, a big issue. The Royals, Kate and William, embraced it for a number of years. Very focal. Anybody see? Was it last year? The work. I think the films that they shot and the videos, the footage that they shot with England footballers and other people as well, highlighting the challenges of mental health. And they were interviewed on ITV. This was probably at the start of the lockdown. And, this is obviously what they had to say about it. And what they would look to talk about is the supporting each other to find ways to look after our mental health overall. Okay. So in summary, we looked at the mind and how the mind works, the information overload and how the information can affect our mental health, the challenges, many challenges affecting managers, but not just the managers, but ourselves and people, adults, parents, people from all walks of society. We've gone through some statistics in regards to the social impact and how it's impacting ourselves, how the COVID-19 and the pandemic's affecting our mental health and our sort of like well-being, and the challenges that face the key workers and people going back to school. And then we've taken you through some of the 5 steps, 5 essential steps and action steps for your employees. Okay, so I'm just going to wrap up here, but there's going to be hopefully there's going to be a copy of this video available for everybody. And I've got my details here at the bottom if anybody who doesn't know me or people who do know me want to make a note of that. I'm very active on LinkedIn. I've got a newsletter which I send out lots of key and good information on a monthly basis, and various blogs that I write as well. So if anybody wants access into any of this, then please just drop your details into the chat or your email, and I'll make sure that you're on the list. So thank you for showing up. Thank you for coming along and taking time out, today and hear me. I really appreciate you taking your time out to do so. Please spread the word. Mental health is alive. It's alive and a challenge, probably even more than ever at this moment in time. And I think it's important that we be those leaders. We make a difference to people's life, and signpost people to the relevant organisations and people that can actually give them that support that they require. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. I agree with Amanda and Alex who popped in the chat there. That was really insightful and a great conversation. I've just got a question for you. We've talked about teams and people in the workplace.
Yeah.
What about sole traders who haven't necessarily got access to teams or to a wider network, or aren't necessarily in business premises? Have you got any tips for them to help them keep their health and well-being up and keep them active and what have you?
Sorry, Shane, can you repeat that again, please? I was just coming out of, I've got you now.
No problem. So we've talked about teams and people who have workplaces to go to.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking, and I touched on it on Monday actually in the Westfield webinar, we have a lot of members who are sole traders who are always working from home, who haven't necessarily got a team that they can bounce off or speak to, and haven't necessarily got a wider network. Have you got any tips for those guys who can kind of keep their health and well-being up and keep themselves active?
That's a good question, Shane. I think at the moment in time, it's doing the things which I think might have alluded to some of these things already in the presentation, but it's going for these at the moment in time is going for regular walks, because these are things that we can do, and I think the government have told us we can go out for even more walks. We can go into parks, and many parks are actually open now. Reach out to friends and family, communicate and talk, because one of the things nowadays is that there is help and support available. Through the Samaritans, you've got Mind, lots of information on the websites, and it's just reaching out to those organisations or asking their friends, do you know anybody? Whether it be somebody like myself or others who are out there who can give them some advice and support. Because in the info, with my clients and everything, from time to time, they'll say to me, oh, I've got a friend here, could you have a quick chat with her? Or could you have a chat with this person? So, there's lots of things that we do. And I know, Shane, and there's stuff that we've been talking about as well for the future in terms of the forum. There's probably that's going to be available as well. So I'm not sure if I'm able to say anything at this stage.
No, yeah, of course. So we're looking at actually launching a health and wellbeing forum from Barnsley and Rotherham Chamber. We do a number of working groups, and we're in talks with Mike and other people and other members as such, really, to launch something. I think it's just slightly taken a back burner with obviously what's been going off and lockdown and what have you, but that'll be something that we'll be looking to launch when we go back into work and everything's up and running a little bit more smoothly. But thanks, Mike. I asked that. It's probably not as relevant for people in this webinar. However, I'm just aware that this is being recorded and it's going out. So I think it's good and definitely worthwhile to just touch on sole traders, because they feel isolated at the best of times, and their heads down a lot on their laptop, working very, very hard in and on their business. And they might just needed some tips to kind of stimulate their health and well-being as such, really. So thank you for that.
Yeah, no, and just to add, to that, Shane, because obviously you find many sole traders who do lots of networking around the Barnsley and Rotherham, the Sheffield areas, and all the sort of the city, the Sheffield regions. And again, through the different regions, there are people like myself and others. I know Ches there, and lots of other people out there as well. And there's a list, and I think even yourself, you've got the chamber, on the chamber website, there is information on there about support services that people are providing. And so what we can do is just to signpost people to those people who are still active and available to give that sort of support.
That's right, and I think from our chamber stance is very much we're here to support you, whether you are a large business, a medium-sized business, or a sole trader at any level, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for that, Mike. We will wrap up there. Has anybody got any questions as such, any burning questions? Please feel free to unmute yourself. This has been very engaging. So what I want to do is just kind of unmute everybody and feel free to carry on the conversation as such, rather than just necessarily Mike talking. So I'll just go through and unmute folk, I think, if I can do it. Or you might have to unmute yourself, I think. I'm trying to go around everybody and press. I don't think it's working for some, but we'll keep it going.
Really good, Shane.
Yeah, do you enjoy that, Matt? Have you got any comments on that, Matt? 'Cause I know you run a business with a number of employees.
Yeah, so I'm watching off my mobile phone because my computer's doing a Windows update, which is why you've got me in a weird angle in my office. No, I know it's really good, Shane. I think there's a lot of techniques and thoughts in there that people don't think about, and you don't realise that when you're asking some of your staff, how are you? They say, I'm fine, but you've got to ask them in 4 or 5 different ways. One of the things I've been saying to people is, look, it's all right to have a bad day, because I have days when I'm just absolutely craply productive. I can't get going. And I think it's just important to keep talking to them. We set up little Teams groups, and we're always chatting in the background, having a bit of a laugh. Even putting funny outfits on to do meetings and things, and just trying to get people just to feel a little bit more engaged. When I dressed up as Donald Trump, one of our team meetings the other day, and I just trying to get people to just feel a bit, you know, I did be wearing a Mohican as well. It's just trying to get people, you know, it's not going to change. It is going to be difficult. Some people lose their jobs, but we're all doing the best that we can for the time we can, you know. But that's all we can do.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And we've seen there's a definite need for that social interaction, really. So we've done a number of different things, whether it's been a fun quiz, the networking that's kicked off. So the social element is definitely a need, really. Mike, do you want to touch on any of that from what Matt's just said?
Yeah, and thanks for sharing that, Matt, because it's showing that vulnerability, showing that we are human after all. We're in there, we're all in it together, and hopefully we'll all come out of it together. And just giving them that encouragement and support that yes, you know, we're there for them. There are difficult and, as they say, challenging times, but as long as they know that they're doing everything that they can, and organisations are doing everything that they can, and demonstrating that as well. And sometimes just by showing, you know, that just by dressing up or having, you know, doing something quirky or different, sometimes it just breaks that ice a little bit, because somebody might see a manager or somebody in charge as being icy and cold, which in occasions when you're leading an organisation, you probably need to do so. But sometimes just by showing that different side, it's like saying, oh, actually, she's not a bad person after all. I thought there was a sound. And then they all see it. And then just that little change sometimes can make a difference. They might go that little extra mile just by showing something, you know, different.
Yeah. Thanks, Mike. Amanda, do you want to come in?
Well, it was exactly that point, really. One of the things that I've loved most about, I mean, it's a tragic situation that we're in, but one of the brighter bits of it is just how much it's done, I think, for helping people develop better relationships, because they are seeing each other as just human beings that have got the same kind of, you know, messy, clumsy lives going on behind them, and people appearing in the dog, and, you know, all of those things. It's just lovely. And I think the rapport is so much more authentic as a result of it. And hopefully that will carry back into the workplace.
Definitely. I think everyone's a little bit more forgiving as well. Like at the beginning of this call, we had a few paused, unstable internet connection moments and what have you, but we just get on with it, don't we? We don't. Yeah. It's just like someone's phone going off in a meeting. It's just one of those things, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good. Well, thank you very much, everybody. Ches, do you just want to unmute yourself? I'm going to put you on the spot if that's all right. But before I do that, I want to say a big thank you to Mike. It's been fantastic, very engaging and very insightful, as Alex also said. We have to support Mental Health Awareness Week on Friday. That's our next webinar, and that starts at 10 o'clock. And that's from the stress master himself, Jez. Jez, do you want to plug it?
Well, I'm not gonna look. Yeah, it's gonna be a great 45 minutes. I get my 45 minutes on Friday. I'm gonna teach you how to learn you about what stress is, how to control it, and how to make it successful for yourself. And I'm going to do it all in 45 minutes. I've been practicing all week. I'm ready to go.
Brilliant. Thank you. I'll send a follow-up email with details on, and then I'll put on a link there for the webinar on Friday as well. So we'll wrap up there. Big thanks to Mike. Thanks for your time, Mike.
Has Amanda got her hand up still?
Okay, say that again.
I just need to take that down.
Oh, okay. Oh, sorry.
So thank you very much, everybody. Have a great day, and I'll speak to you soon. Thank you.
Thank
Cheers.
you.
Cheers, everybody.
Bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye.